Sorry about that. My second mic was on. All right, Caroline, you want to jump in?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, for those who don't already know me, my name is Caroline Scram. I'm with Metron, been with the company for about 3 years. Metron as a whole, we provide to real estate investors, we provide submetering as a service. We started as a company back in the 90s, about 30 years ago. We started with providing utility grade meters to municipalities and water districts across the US. About 8 years ago, we saw the need for submetering in real estate investment markets and slowly trickled in there. Um, our technology has been upgraded, throughout the years. We started with I8 technology, as we call it, and that was meters that would call into a gateway system, and then the gateway would dump all of the data in hour intervals in WaterScope. But now we have developed technology called smart metering technology that gives you minute by minute data analytics in WaterScope. So you can see usage down to the minute, as well as leaks, freeze, if anything, low temperature alerts. But that's kind of the basics of Metron and myself. And I sell primarily to mobile home park investors, as well as multifamily and commercial investors too. Um, and I really love the market. And as everybody here knows, it's quite the interesting market. Every day is different. You see something new. And when you work in water, you see some quite interesting things. So I'd like to start off with a story. Um, I had a client who came to me and he bought the park. It was his first investment property, and the water bill was astronomically high. $10,000 for 31 pads, which is quite a high water bill for a low pad count. He implemented the submetering system, and within a day of using Metron meters in the park, we saw that one of the pads specifically was using 13,000 gallons a day. And when I sent this to him, all I got in response was just a picture of the pad, and it was a picture of a pool, a makeshift pool in the backyard. Well, come to find out, the tenant wanted a pool in his backyard, but he wanted it, up to his standard. He wanted it consistently filtered and refilling. So he was running his hose 24 hours a day and filling up his pool and keeping it nice and clean and cold water all day, every day. So that we see on a daily basis. You would be shocked to hear of the crazy things you see in the mobile home park world. Um, But yeah, do we have any questions right off the bat?
Yeah, I guess a good question would be if I'm, based on that story, if I have somebody filling up a pool in my mobile home park, how am I going to be notified of that? And,
Yeah.
how quickly would I find out? Is it almost instantaneous? The flow rate would just increase, in whatever platform you guys have to be able to, read that specific meter for that specific home, or how would that work?
Yeah, so we have a wide variety of automations, and the short answer is yes, you would get notified, and you would get notified within 24 hours of finding out about a big leak or a constant use, such as a hose filling up a pool. And that all goes through our system WaterScope. And we set up what's called email alerts, and there are many different kinds that we can run through. The first and most important, especially for real estate owner and operators, is going to be our leak alerts. So we have three types of leaks that we can alert on. The first being an intermittent leak. And if you picture this on a graph, it's a big plateau of usage. So a high flow rate of usage that goes on for a few hours. This is usually going to be your toilet flappers, and almost 100% of the time you're going to be notified of a toilet flapper leak. The second and third are pretty similar. They're consistent gallon per minute usage that never reaches zero. The first being anything under 0.25 gallons per minute, and that is just our standard leak. So picture it as a dripping faucet, a slight leak in the pipe, And then we also have what's called a threshold leak. So that's anything above 0.25 gallons. So that's more severe and would require immediate, somebody going to the pad. So that's going to be a pipe bursting, something major, a hose running at all hours of the day. But we can notify of more than just leaks. We also have low temperature alerts, and we can notify of a low temperature, the ambient temperature right outside the meter body. Here's our meter. It would notify you of a low temperature right out front of it. So anything reaching 32, 33 degrees, it will notify you, hey, heat tape seems to not be working. It's not plugged in, we're gearing towards a pipe bursting. And so especially in the winter and especially if you're in a cold weather state, that's especially helpful for you to get maintenance teams out and notify your homeowners. Something else we can notify you about is called zero usage. So what that means is, has no usage gone through the meter in the last 24 hours? We've seen some really creative ways to use this, and one of those being, we had a client with really low occupancy rates in his park, and the reason being was abandonment issues, and they couldn't figure out when and where this was happening, and they couldn't figure it out fast enough. So they would log into WaterScope and set up zero use alerts. And if they found a zero use meter, they could go and figure out if the pad or the home was abandoned. Another reason this can be a zero use is if something's clogged in the line. So if sediment builds up in the water line, it will clog the meter, and we can also notify you of that as well. The last thing I want to touch on is going to be backflow. So if anything, picture it as positive use this way. If anything goes back through the meter in a negative fashion, it will notify you of that. And there's two reasons for that. The first is going to be a meter's installed backwards, which is a pretty quick fix. And the second is going to be a city meter leak. So if there's pressure that moves water back through the meter, it could be due to a city line break.
And then, yeah, I guess that's an important question, I think, for us to understand as well, because you have a meter at the main, correct? And then you have meters at each of the individual homes as well, called submeters. Are they both submeters, or do you guys call like one the main meter and the rest submeters? How does that work, and how do they communicate with each other, so that there might be a leak somewhere in the main versus along those laterals?
Yeah, great question. So at the per pad level, that's going to be what we call a submeter. So that's breaking down the use per pad or per tenant. On the city meter level, we can monitor the city meter or city meters. And that's just a main meter or a monitoring device, as we call on our end. So there's different levels of monitoring we have. And here at Metron, we see the value of having both. I'm sure most people on this call have experienced some sort of infrastructure leak happening in their park. Regardless of the size, it happens all the time, unfortunately, more often than we like to admit. We can compare the usage that we're recording off of the city meter in comparison to the submeters and give you the variance between the two. So that ties into your recapture rate. How much of your total property usage are you recapturing through the submeter? And then the rest of it, how much of that is going into the ground essentially? So what's not making it to the homes? And the way that they're able to communicate, it's all done cellularly. So the same way that you and I's cell phone works, it calls into Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile towers. They all call in independently of one another. They'll call into Verizon towers, and then it will dump all of the data into our software WaterScope. So there's no need for gateways, repeaters. You don't need power. You don't need Wi-Fi in the homes. They all operate independently, and matter of fact, they're all actually reading at the time that they're shipped. So if anything is recorded, a breeze blows through it at the time of shipment, it's going to count it as usage.
Hey, can you hear me?
Can hear you, yes.
Hey, thanks everybody. It's Ryan. If you, I had to call in because I had an attorney go rogue. He just disappeared, and I don't have an attorney to back me up. So I'm having to drive 2.5 hours one way to show up at 9 a.m. and try my best to argue in court. So, hooray! Thank you, Michael, for running with this. I use Metron a lot. Literally this morning, I have two situations where Metron is saving my butt. Number one, at a well that and wastewater plant that is overflowing due to usage, we installed a master meter, and wouldn't you know, there's folks using more well water than they ought to. And as soon as we can get Metron meters installed on those homes, even though like in short run, we may not be able to bill it back because different states are wonky about billing back private utilities, doesn't matter. Like if you have a wastewater plant that could go kaput because someone's got a leaky toilet or apparently filling up a pool, you got to know. And another thing that was really fun that we literally did this morning at my other property in Tampa, Florida, there's a massive water leak we could never find for years. And we have a master Metron meter as well as meters at every single home. And what I'm able to do now is take that master meter and then add up all the other meters and just subtract the master meter, Metron meter from all the other ones. And there's an uncaptured rate of about 500 gallons. And there's about a handful of Metron meters that are showing zero reads, like Carolyn mentioned earlier. And what we're doing is tomorrow we're going to go and we're going to take pictures of those 5 meters and see if that plus or minus 500 gallon difference is like literally just some sediment in the meter, or if there's a broken antenna, or if, they bypassed it or installed it wrong. So like having visibility on that is absolutely crucial. And it's like immediate. Oh, and one other fun thing, we have an abandoned home. And we were able, true story, to pinpoint the day that this woman just disappeared. Why? Because her Metron meter has been showing zero read for about 45 days, give or take. It was February 26th or 27th was the last day that, maybe a little bit less than 45 days, was the last day that she registered any usage. So how freaking cool is that? Like now we can effectively pinpoint when we believe this woman left just by going backwards in time and looking at stuff. So I am pumped to have you here, Caroline. I have a whole list of questions to ask, but Michael, I'm sure some folks have some really great questions.
Yeah, Ryan, I think let's hop into the chat here. Dee asked what the process is to install a meter on each individual pad site. And I guess you guys probably do that with all of the meters at the same time and inclusive of potentially a main meter. So maybe you can walk through that whole process, how long it takes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been installing these for about 8 years, and we have in-house and traveling crews that do it. Or if you feel like you have people capable of doing it, you're welcome to do it yourself. But what is required? Obviously, you're going to want to shut off the water to the home and cut into that line, or if there's already a meter in place, just go ahead and swap it out. You'll need a few unions on either side, and you're good to go. All we require is you record the 7-digit serial number and report that back to us. But on the install side, it's probably the easiest. It's a simple process. Our guys can do it in about 15-20 minutes per pad. The hardest part is going under a mobile home and getting access. Location wise, I recommend that most people put these where the water risers meet the home underneath the pad itself. And the reason I recommend it is, one, it's out of sight, out of mind. Sometimes tenants, and hopefully this isn't every time, when they realize that they are starting to pay for their own water, and if they can find the meter, they'll mess around with it, they'll play with the antenna or just take off the meter altogether. So if it's in a hard to reach place, it's easily maintained. You can also put them in pits as well. What we require is you have plastic lids over the top and that antenna is not submerged underwater. The meter itself can be submerged so long as the antenna is not. And we offer what's called a pit mount antenna that would sit at the top of a plastic lid. When it comes to the main meter monitor, we have techs that also come out and do it. It's a non-invasive meter that goes around the city meter itself, and it has a sensor that counts the revolutions of the city meter. The hardest part of that install is getting everything calibrated, so making sure we're accurately counting the usage off of the city meter. But as far as install, we can install on PEX, PVC, copper. We do not install on galvanized lines, and we especially don't install on the garden hose specials. So in that case, we just recommend you come out before us and replumb everything, or get a plumber out there and replace at least a part of the pipe with PEX or PVC.
Let's see. The next one from Kyle is, how long do Metron batteries usually last?
Good question. So we have lithium ion batteries. They last their lifespans 20 years. Now with Metron, we cover the lithium ion battery, the register itself. It looks just like this. I'll show you here. It's a little computer that's covered under our warranty. So if anything fails, we'll replace it free of charge for you. So regardless of the lifespan, we've got you covered, but we're looking at 20 years.
That's quite a long time. I was not expecting that answer. So the follow-up question here from Kyle is there a way for tenants to log into Metron to see a usage of their meter, or would they only be able to see their usage through our software like Rent Manager?
So we do have the ability for tenants to be signed up for their own individual meter, and what they would see is just their pad's usage, over the last day, over the last week, years past. They can see everything, but only at their pad level. They can't see their neighbors or anybody else's. And they also can download our app. If they don't have access to a computer, we can also offer this on the app. And same thing for park owners. They can download the WaterScope 2.0 app and see usage that way. You can also see it through Rent Manager as well, but there's multiple ways to view the system through WaterScope and get tenants signed up for that. Usually, when we do that, we just ask that you give us a tenant email and their VNID number or the serial number associated with their submeter, and we'll get everybody a login.
Awesome. And do you see any downsides? I have a question, but are there any downsides to sharing that information with your tenants potentially, or no?
I personally don't see any downsides, and the reason I say that is when tenants can see their own use, they feel like they have the power to change their behavior and save some money. We're in the business of mobile home parks, so these are low income housing and low income tenants. When it comes to a high water bill, they have to budget for these things. They have to ensure that they have the funds to pay these bills. So if they can see their use and make sure they don't have leaks, they're able to control, the outcome, how much they're going to pay in water. And then in turn, I mean, that benefits the owner operator as well. You're decreasing the whole park's consumption. But we do see that when tenants are paying for their own water, they'll in turn decrease their consumption by 30% just by behavioral changes. And I know that firsthand. I once was a teenage girl and I didn't pay my water, so I took 1.5 hour long showers. I, ran the sink as long as I wanted, and I didn't ever see a water bill. Now I live in a house, I see, a $200 water bill. I'm taking every chance to fix any leak in my house and make changes so I don't have to continuously pay that every month.
I can't say the same. I live in New York City and they pay my water, so I'm definitely abusing that. And I will think about that now that I am an owner myself. So thank you for that. That story.
I'm jealous. It gets
Yeah.
quite expensive. I'm here in Denver, and water seems to be getting more and more expensive. And same for our parks. The waste and water rates are going up. So everything seems to be getting more expensive. So anyway, these tenants feel like they have power to decrease an expense, especially, with rent increases and paying for trash. Seeing their water use is just really helpful, we find.
Yeah, and I actually just received some similar advice from a park owner who, was giving me guidance on how to submeter, when to submeter, et cetera, and when to start charging back. He said to me, I would submeter and then show your tenants their usage for 3 months before you start billing them because you'll likely see a massive decrease in their usage if they know they're going to be billed in 3 months,
Yep.
and they start to see it, and then they could assign, some of the habits they have with that water usage and start to slowly decrease those habits. So it's amazing how psychology works. As Ryan says all the time, if you can track it, then you can change it,
Yep.
or something along those lines. Ryan, I don't remember exactly what the saying is, but I don't see. Hold on, there's a couple more questions in here that I want to ask before I hand it over to Ryan to ask some really good ones. D says, can you install at RV parks as well with long-term park guests? I imagine so, right?
Yes, yes, you can. And because WaterScope has the historical data, so we can show you, for example, the last day of usage, the last week, the last month. What did you use in October of 2022? This is especially helpful for RV parks. So if it's a short-term RV park, say they check in this week and then they check out that week, you can pull a report of that gallon per minute usage for that specific week and charge based on the rates you have in the area. And if it's long term, same thing. These 3 months, what usage went through, and then on this date, this tenant moved in, and then we'll bill for a different tenant going forward.
And I like to make this a little interactive. I know Kyle has some short-term RV parks, or just maybe the one, and I'd love to bring him to the stage. Kyle, if you can't speak because you're at dinner or whatever the case may be, don't feel like you need to, but I'm going to allow you to talk. If you want to hop in and talk about maybe submetering your existing RV parks, if you've done that, what your experience has been, etc.
So yeah, our campground, we're about half long-term, half just, your weekend camper. We have not chosen to submeter at the campground, not saying that we couldn't, but there's just a lot more um, moving in and moving out. And so sometimes there's like an overlap. It's like they're not there a full, 30 days or whatever. But I'm not saying it's not possible. We have just not done it before. Um, so there, maybe we'll consider in the future, but I will bring something else up. I actually was just talking to a resident of a park, kind of why I asked that question earlier about can the tenants see their own usage. There's a family friend who actually lives in a park here locally, and the landlord installed the Metron meters, and this tenant, our friend, has been requesting, I want to see my usage. The landlord's not letting us see it, and we think that his billing is more or less kind of bogus. And so that's why I was asking that question. Like, do they have a way that they could see it? Would Could I ask? Can they reach out to you guys directly, or would they have to go through the landlord? Sorry, Michael, I kind of just like derailed the question, the original question.
No, I love the follow-ups here. Go ahead, Caroline.
Yeah, so they would need to go directly through the landlord. Our customer service only deals with the owner operator, landlord, property manager, whoever is in charge of that. Um, I would encourage to have your friend reach back out to the landlord and get that login because it is possible. And I would be happy to do it myself, but they need the permission from the landlord to get access to that.
Okay, got it. And back to Michael, kind of your original question. I'm just thinking this through, like our campground. It would be a little bit harder maybe to install the meters, and maybe we could talk about the right way to do it. But the way the water comes up out of the ground at a campground, it's like it sticks up out of the ground like 3 foot. It's like a hydrant, a water hydrant. And so it's not like this meter can be, tucked down in a pit or anything
Yeah.
or well insulated. So I'm trying to think how we would actually even install the meter.
If you would like it out of sight, out of mind, one idea that came to mind for me is putting a meter box around it, a plastic meter box, if you want it, if you have the space for it, of course. But if you want the meter to not be exposed, just put a box around it. But that all, it depends on how much space you're working with and the line size.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, Kyle. All right. Ryan, did you want to jump in here? Did you have any follow-up questions? I'm not seeing any more in the chat right now, so let's maybe stoke some more
Yeah,
creativity from our
Mike, can you hear me?
guests.
All right.
Yeah, you
Hello?
sound great.
Sorry, I'm driving, so I don't know. I emailed over a ton of questions that you were copied on. If you don't mind just pulling those up. I think the biggest thing, y'all, is, like for those who listen to my podcast, I didn't have any money when I got started. And the way I was able to scale a business was with things like automation. And the big reason why, like beyond just why to Submeter, is like why Metron, or, to be fair, there are other companies that do something similar. Like whether, you have some other company in mind or Metron, like obviously I'm a huge fan of Metron, but just to be fair, you got to find a way to automate. And even if you're wealthy and you're coming into the mobile home park game wealthy and you got tons of cash and you can take an hour and a half long shower and pay the bill anyways, I think having automation and having that data backed up on a cloud is absolutely huge, and everybody needs to be doing it. And it's funny because, like, what I do, a lot of my tenants don't sign up for what Carolyn was talking about, where, tenants can log in and see their own activity. And as a result, I literally have members of my team daily, myself included, who go through and double check who's got a potential leak, and we reach out to them. And the psychological bit of this is like the number one thing that we hear back is, like, hey, sir, ma'am, oh my gosh, like, congratulations, we just saved you from like a $500 water bill. Just go fix your toilet. You'd think people would be like, oh my gosh, thanks, you're right, it was leaking and I fixed it. Dude, you saved me a bunch of money. Nope, not at all. The number one retort we get, other than silence, is, well, your meter's probably broken. So, like, every conversation, it feels like, starts with, sir, ma'am, the first thing we check is that your meter works. Now that we're over that, now that it's not an us thing, it is a you thing, like, can you please just go check your toilet? And then it's funny because almost always people are like, oh, what'd you know? It's my toilet flap. I can't tell y'all how many times over the years before we had something like this. Again, like, my preference is Metron, obviously, but like plenty of companies do this. Here's why you need to do this. Those toilet flaps can add up to $500+ water bills, and we would have those consistently. Like, it was not a question of if, it was a question of how many. And this isn't like we're in some colder markets where stuff just explodes. This is, everywhere. We experience this in every state that I'm in. Like, to be able to ping someone and let them know, hey, look, we're here to help you save money, rather than the opposite, which is you trying to collect on someone for a $500+ water bill, and then they're like, well, prove it. Then they hire an attorney, and then they're like, we can't pay this. And then guess who fits that bill? You. Right? So whether you do Metron or whomever, you have to do this. Like, there is no better way than that instantaneous data and getting out ahead of it. And if folks want to argue with you for 30 days and then get a $500 water bill, if you have to go to court, you have oodles and oodles and oodles of evidence versus, someone showing up and reading the meter once a month. Right. And my employees tell me this all the time because I'm like, that person was rude to you today about X, Y, or Z. What do you think? And every single one of my employees is like, dude, I wish my apartment or my single family home would text me if I had a leak. Like, I live in a single family home in Charlotte, North Carolina, and Charlotte Water does not let me know if I have a leak. Like, that's a luxury. That's a really nice thing that you can offer your clients. So anyways, that's my spiel about why all of you should sign up for hopefully Metron, but because it's easy and I can show you how to do it. But anything, if not Metron, if you got a buddy, whatever XYZ thing, like, just do it. You need to do this. But anyway, Michael, did you find that email with the question?
I've got it, Ryan. Yeah, and I think a good follow-up question, which kind of ties into Eric's, is a combination of Eric's question and your first one, which is, what automations can be set up through Metron / WaterScope? And then, Eric's part of this question is, what landlord software can Metron automatically upload to? And our preferred software is Rent Manager, but I'm sure that there are other people who are going to either listen to this now or listen to it later who might use others. So if you could just kind of walk through the automation capabilities and each of the softwares that it connects to, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as automations go, it's going to be those email notifications. So you, without even having to log into the system or be at the park or even be in the same state as the park, you'll know what's going on at the park. And so, like I said, we'll do those leak alerts, low temperature, zero use, and backflow, and we can notify as many people as needed. And the other thing is, if you as the operator want to be notified of leaks and low temperature, but not other things, we can set you up for a few, and the property manager or whoever, the maintenance staff for all of the others. And one really cool thing that we can notify of is water loss. So if you have something monitoring your city meter and you have submeters as well, and you want to be notified when there's a difference of 10% or more, so you're losing 10% of your water into the ground, we'll notify you of anything above that. And on top of that, we can integrate with, Rent Manager, we have a full integration with. So on Rent Manager, you'll request that integration, set a date you want the reads to come over into Rent Manager, set your waste and water rates, and you're good to go. It's kind of hands off at that point, and it will do the work for you. Manage America, Yardi, and Conservice, they all have the ability to log into your account and pull the reads into their system. And same thing, hands off for you. They'll get the rates and they'll bill accordingly. And Appfolio as well. We have what's called an Appfolio report. So we'll give you, the pad number, the unit ID for Appfolio, the starting read, the ending read, and based on your waste and water rates, this is what we recommend you bill. And it's a CSV file that you can upload into that system. We can also do that for things like QuickBooks or other property management softwares as well. So this can be as hands-on or as hands-off as you would like it to be. If you want this to be billed out once a month through Rent Manager and you just want to know when the big things happen, like a infrastructure leak and some small leaks here and there, you don't have to log into WaterScope at all. I don't recommend it, but you can do that if you need to. Or you can log into WaterScope every day, check every nook and cranny of the system and make sure your system is going well.
I guess for those of us who really like to dashboard and use APIs and stuff like that, if I wanted to integrate this with Google Sheets or something along those lines, or Power BI or something like that, do you guys have any built-in integrations for that, or the ability to kind of code in APIs to communicate with your platform?
We don't. What you can do is through WaterScope, we have what's called a billing and reports tab. So you can pull all sorts of different reports. It's going to come as a Google Sheets or an Excel sheet. On this day, what was the reading for all these different pads, or for this specific pad, what was the reading for this month? There's a million different reports you can pull and then upload it wherever you want.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand. So kind of a back-end approach would be to download those reports, feed them into your data model, and then have it generate reports based on those printed reports. That makes sense.
Yeah, if I can just jump in, this is Dan Bennett lurking.
Hey, Dan.
Hey there. I'm with Metron. I'm just making sure Caroline behaves herself. No, I'm just seeing how this goes because this is the first time we've done a webinar with you guys, and it's going great. Good work, Caroline. We do actually have an API which we call Data Link for WaterScope, which means that if you do have people who want to get their hands dirty with coding, I'm not sure what languages are supported. I'm not sure what bindings there are. Maybe C, maybe PHP or Perl or something, but there is. For those who really do want to get down in the weeds of coding and integration from your favorite application to pull data directly from the WaterScope database associated with your account, then it can be done, and we can help you do that.
Yeah, that's fantastic to know. There are some of us out there who are crazy enough to be property managers and coders, Ryan and I being two of them, and I'm sure there's others on this call as well. So yeah, the APIs are something that I've gotten into recently. They can be very cool. They can be very interesting if you have regional managers who you want to, show specific reports to, maybe about water recapture. Maybe they need to be walking the sites more because there's, leaks that, we haven't identified or something along those lines. So I guess I'm always, as a data junkie, interested in how can I plug in to all of the data I'm collecting, and that's a fantastic feature that you guys have rolled out. So
right. One of the things we imagine that it could be used for, aside from operational applications, would be ESG reporting. So if you've got, especially in locations where drought is a concern, then ESG reporting is important, maybe to your shareholders or other stakeholders. And so an application that pulls ESG related data and does the computation to suit whatever you're looking to report can also make use of that API, or CSV files downloaded from WaterScope, whatever works out as the right path for data.
Eric's raising his hand here. Eric, I don't know if you have a question you want to ask live. I'll bring you to the stage here, but go ahead.
Yeah, hey, thanks. Thanks, Caroline, for doing this. Just to clarify about the integration with the landlord software, I've heard that Metron will basically upload water usage and calculate the water bill monthly and include it in like the billing statement that then gets sent to the tenant, that the tenant can then pay without you touching anything or having to manually enter data or calculate water bills for you, etc. Am I understanding that correctly?
Correct. Really, all you'll have to do on your end when setting this up is going to be put in those waste and water rates, and you can also put in any base fees that come from the city that you would like to split up. And then, when those reads come in, you'll have to post them as well. So, a few clicks, but on the front end, setting that up, that's the hardest part. And then month over month, it's a simple process.
Okay, so it's not completely touch-free. You do have to do something in order to attach those water bills to the statements that the tenants are getting?
Correct.
Okay. And my thing with, I think some of the features Rent Manager offers are amazing, but it is expensive for like smaller operators who only have a few pads. It's not really cost effective. Do you offer any similar functionality with some other software that might not be as expensive as Rent Manager?
Software wise, we can work with really whatever you prefer. If you're looking for Appfolio, there's going to be that CSV file upload, or on our end, we can generate invoices that are sent via mail or email to the tenant. So that would be, the most hands-off for you if you don't necessarily have a software you want to integrate with now. And what that looks like, it looks very similar to what the city water bill looks like for a single family house. It will break down the usage by water use, sewer use, and this is what you owe, and this is how you pay it. And I always recommend just go ahead and mail it to the pad. Some people don't have access to email, so it's a little harder to get them to receive those invoices.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay. And so how do you guys get paid? What's the cost per meter? How much do you charge for install? What's the monthly cost to the park owner?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer submetering as a service. So we don't stop at just handing the meter to you and say, okay, good luck, go read the meter, have fun, figure it out for yourself. No data comes with it. We instead, provide the meter, and then we also provide an ongoing service, which is water scope and its integrations and its warranty. So when it comes to cost, we are $55 upfront and then $7 monthly. That's going to be standard pricing. So at quantity and other things, it might vary, but really the bread and butter of Metron is the service. So like I said, we've seen submetering before where they just hand you the meters, you have a meter reader go out, figure it out, guesstimate, and then you don't have the data to prove out in court, like Ryan was saying, or anywhere, show the residents what they should be looking at for water use. We wanted to change the way that submetering is done, and so now it is as a service. We'll give you all the access to data for as many people as you want, and we also provide warranty the entire time you're with us. So any failure outside of freezing, vandalism, and theft, we'll cover free of charge. So we'll offer you a replacement part, ship it out to you, and show you how to replace it. And then as far as install, like I said, we have crews who travel all across the US to do this, as well as in-house crews. And then standard install, I would say, most of the time it's going to be a fresh cut-in install. Anything over 100 pads is going to be $120 to cut in on the line.
Any follow-ups there, Eric?
Sorry. Yeah, sorry. I was struggling to unmute myself. Yeah, no, that's awesome. So it's just $55 and then $7 a month, and that's it. I mean,
Like Ryan said, we want you guys to be able to do this. We see the NOI growth that comes from submetering, regardless of the company you do it with. There is a massive amount of NOI growth that comes with it, and so we want you to be able to easily access the system. We keep the CapEx spend on the front end low, and then the monthly, that's the service. And whether or not you want to pass that on to the tenants, eat the cost, that's up to you. But we want this to be an easy system for you, easy to afford, and we want it for all parks across the US. Like I said, regardless of the system, it's the best system to have.
yeah,
Eric, I always bill it back to my residents. So every state I'm involved in, I can bill that $7 to the resident as an admin fee, regardless if they use water or not. So outside of the initial install, it really pays for itself, if that makes sense. If you choose and can legally bill it back.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I mean, I'm shocked as it's as affordable as it is. So thank you for the time, Carolyn. That's all I got.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking.
Oh, actually, one other thing. What can you say? I know you guys don't use clamp-on meters, but I just learned about clamp-on meters recently. What is the deal with that? And are they accurate? Are they not accurate? Do you guys ever use them or not?
So are you talking about clamp-on submeters that go around the line for each pad?
Yeah.
I think that when it comes to clamp-on, it depends on the piping type, and that will vary the accuracy of the meter. So if anything's going through the meter sediment, I find that there's a hard time with accuracy in the way that they are able to be installed, and it depends on line type. So when it comes to inline meters like this is an inline meter. We also have ultrasonic meters as well, but anything inline, I always recommend. I think the accuracy is much higher. And our standard submeter right here, this is called our Spectrum 30D. It's a single jet low flow meter. So it has a little impeller in there, and it will detect a drip of water all the way up to a pipe bursting. So it's going to help you with that recapture rate. And I can't speak directly to how accurate all of these meters are, but what I can say is we've been in the game, the metering game, utility, and real estate a long time. And we think that accuracy is the most important thing for you guys. Getting all of the operating income back in your pockets that we can, and that boils down to how accurate are our meters.
This is Dan Bennett jumping in again. If you want to see the graphs of rated accuracy with different flow rates, they're all on our website. You just go to the spectrum meters page, drill down a bit, and you'll find data sheets showing the graphs of how accurate they are for different flow rates, and you'll see that they are within the bounds of the AWWA specifications. And we test our production meters all the time on a test bench. We run calibrated amounts of water through, and we capture exactly what the meter advance, how much the numbers advance on the meters, and any meter that doesn't look like it falls within AWWA tolerances is either corrected or rejected. So accuracy is really important. With regard to the strap-on ones, and you've asked us how accurate they are, once our engineering team has had a look at them, we'll be able to tell you. That's all I can say at this point.
Dan, of course, we want to see graphs. If you could drop a link in the chat about for those graphs specifically, just so we can all look at them later, and I can include them in your
Sure.
materials on the MHP Pros Mastermind. That would be extremely helpful.
Yeah.
I have. Sorry, Eric, go ahead.
That was just one thought I had. If Kyle's still on this call, Kyle, you might tell your friend to put on their own meter on their line to sort of track, double check the billing and usage that their landlord may or may not be fudging those bills on. There's just a thought that occurred to me.
Yeah, it's always good to trust but verify. And I guess that brings me to another question. After I want to bring it back to Pat. Pat, I know you asked a question about is that $55 per meter, and I think that's a quick answer. So I'll just ask Caroline to answer that quickly. Is that 55 per meter installation there, Caroline?
Yeah, so that's the upfront cost per meter, per submeter. So cost varies, of course, on the size, but a standard submeter that's going per pad, that's going to be the upfront cost.
Great. And then my question was, in the spirit of Eric's question, if the town is overbilling you and you have a main meter on, are you able to kind of go back to them and be like, we have better data than you and challenge them? Have you seen that?
I love this question because yes, we have seen this. I've talked to a bunch of my clients who in the past, one story that comes to mind, front and center, the city had a clerical error where they took the decimal point out one. And so they were billing them, an astronomical water bill. And this was for months and months and months. And the municipality wouldn't work with them. It was like, well, this is it. You guys must be using a lot of water. Well, they put a device around it and they clearly saw that it was less than that by a decimal, and that translates to a lot of money. And with that, they can go back to the municipality and say, okay, here's the data over, a month, over 2 months. Here's what we're seeing, and we believe that your billing is inaccurate. And at that point, they say, okay, it seems to be incorrect, and here we'll credit you back or this or that. Another thing that I always love to mention when it comes to municipalities is if you are monitoring your city meter with a device or an inline, meter, if you have a big infrastructure leak, you can always go back to the municipality, show them the data. Hey, we've had this leak. It's 4 gallons per minute for this long. Can we get sewer credits? That's another way to get some money back for a pretty catastrophic, leak that's happening. So work with your municipality, show them the data, but we see inaccuracies in city meter billing all of the time.
That's great to hear. So it looks like there's savings in more than one methodology here. And that probably applies to the sewer too, because I believe in most municipalities, the sewer bill is based on the water usage and they just charge you for that flow. So you probably save on both ends. I have a question here from Tiernan. Let me bring him to the stage. What's up, Tiernan?
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
How's it going, man?
Hey, Caroline, my name's Tiernan. Me and Mike own a park together. I got a question for you. Have you heard of potentially a competitor to Metron? They're called Simple Sub, I believe. It's like a clip-on submeter. It seems too good to be true. What differentiates Metron from them, and why would Metron be the better choice?
Well, I'll answer for Caroline real quick because she just talked about clamp on and and Dan chimed in and said their engineers are looking at them right now. But how long did you say, Caroline, that Metron has been in the game?
We have been in the game since the 90s. So we started back in the 90s, and I love talking about the history of Metron. You know, people don't realize how long we've been in the metering sphere, but since the 90s, we've been manufacturing meters. They're all utility grade inline meters or, you know, city monitoring devices that are non-invasive. But we started with archaic methods like drive-by systems, you know, manual reads, and gateway systems, and we have evolved to what is now an inline smart meter. And really where we differentiate ourselves from other metering companies in the mobile home park world is our data. And so the first thing is we can go down to the minute. So what on this exact minute, on this exact day, how many gallons were used? And what that translates to is we can pinpoint when exactly a leak started, how many gallons were used, and all of that historical data. And we can do so on graphs that are clear for you to understand, okay, this red line, I see a leak, you know, and this is normal usage. This must be a sink or a dishwasher. You don't necessarily need to know what people are doing all hours of the day, but where you know, we are separating ourselves is the leak alerts, and they're quick, and you know, we are saving people a lot of money this way just by catching those leaks. I had a park owner who came to me, and he had bought the park. It was his first park, his baby. He had a super high water bill, wanted to make sure things got calm, you know, as he eased into learning the mobile home park world. He implemented his submetering system. He caught leaks, and he in turn billed back. His starting usage for the park was 180,000 gallons per month. Last month, he was at 80,000 gallons per month. He was able to cut his usage in more than half just by implementing a submetering system and understanding the data. Another way that we stand out is we have a massive team of people, and we are always trying to better our technology. So right now we're upgrading WaterScope to be more intuitive for you guys that are not water experts. And one thing we're working on right now is, whether we like it or not, we all want to see the bottom line. How much money is this going to cost me? What is this leak going to cost me? And that's what we're working on right now to show you front and center. How much money is this specific pad going to cost me on an estimate? And how much is this infrastructure leak going to cost me? So it's just one more tool we're trying to give to you guys.
Yeah, and I saw Tyrion raise his hand again there. I want to be cognizant of time because we only have 3 minutes left here. Is there anything you guys wanted to say to close this out, either Caroline or Dan? Or we could take one more question from Tyrion, and it's totally up to you guys.
One thing I will say, and then I'm happy to answer the question. If you guys just want to see the data, I know I spoke data, you're probably like, okay, what does it look like? If you ever just want me to walk you through it, I'm happy to do so. Just go ahead and shoot me an email or reach out to Michael or Ryan, and I'm happy to just walk you through the system, what leaks look like, what that email notification looks like. Myself, you know, you can tell me all these things, but I want to see it for myself and just see how it works. So I'm happy to do that for you.
Yeah, and I think on one of our next webinars, we should dive in deep into WaterScope and maybe do a walkthrough of the software. Maybe we can have Ryan show us how it connects to Rent Manager, et cetera, and really do a deep dive on that because I know people like you are hands-on and they want to see how they can implement it in their business. We do have a couple minutes here, so let me allow Tiernan to come back and answer his question.
Hey, yeah, sorry if you repeated about the some of the things. I had to jump on a little late. I just got done touring the Titan Homes plant, which was super cool to see new manufactured homes being developed, built. How about the, I don't know if you talked about this before, but what about the meters that have little radio antennas that send the signals? Does Metron do that, or is it a better system than that?
So just showing you the meter, this antenna, and it keeps blurring. This antenna is what sends all of the data to Verizon towers and then drops it into WaterScope. You know, there's different types of systems when it comes to submeters. commonly, you know, a gateway system. So all of the meters call into a gateway, and then the gateway then drops everything into a system. You could have repeaters, you know, you could require Wi-Fi. There's a lot of different ways, but ours is all independent. You know, it calls in itself. If this one fails, that does not mean the whole park is going to fail.
Yeah, and this is Dan. Just going to jump in a couple of things there. If for some reason it doesn't succeed in a read, the register on the meter there actually stores your minute by minute data for up to 45 days. So the next time it successfully connects to the Verizon tower, it backfills the data. So although the data may be a little late, you don't actually get a gap in it. So you have full integrity of history there. Just to clarify, we do read the water flow every minute of every day, so that's 1,440 reads per day, but we don't transmit it instantly. If we did that, we'd have the cell antenna, the cellular radio circuit would be active all the time, and you absolutely wouldn't get 20 years of battery life. It would be drained much, much faster than that. So what we do is we capture the data over 24 hours, and then the meter will upload that data. It'll turn on its cellular circuit. It'll upload the data to the Verizon tower. It takes about half a minute, and it's done in the middle of the night, say 3 o'clock in the morning or something. And then the transmitter goes back to sleep while the meter continues to read water data. The exception to that is we can configure meters to wake up and transmit a leak alert if one is detected, because even though getting your data daily is great for most things, if it's a serious leak, you want to know even more quickly than that.
Dan, that was fantastic. Thank you for summarizing that, because that was going to be my question. Yeah, sure. Once every day is great unless there's a leak and you want to know immediately. So thank you for clarifying there. We are 1 minute over. I see D said outstanding. Thank you. I'm sure that everyone else on the call feels the same way. This has been incredibly illuminating, and we will have the whole recording on our platforms in school. If you guys want to go back and check those out later, inclusive of a little summary of everything that was covered today, because we covered a lot of ground, and I'm sure we'll cover even more ground on the next call. So I want to say thank you from everyone at the MHP Pros, from Ryan and I, and from all of our viewers here, and I'll let you guys close it out.
Yeah, Michael and Ryan, thanks so much for having us. This is my job, but I love talking about water, and it's a great space to be in, and it's really interesting. So if you have any other questions for me, feel free to reach out. It's what I do 8 hours a day, is just talk about water and water meters. So happy to answer any questions you have, or just talk about any problems you're having with leaks. We see everything in our line of work. So thank you guys, and thanks for listening in today.
Thank you so much, guys. And hopefully we see some of you at MHI this year in Orlando. And if not, maybe Seco in the fall. But, we'll also have you back on. So looking forward to it. See you soon, guys. Thanks, everybody.